A really popular question that I get on my TikTok is, should I go the school counseling route or should I go the social work route to work in the schools in a counseling capacity? Now, this question's a little tough, but I'm going to do my best to share the differences between school counseling and school social work so you can decide on your own of which route would be best for you. Welcome to my channel. I'm Kia Bell, and this is by Kia Bell, giving you all things social work. I have been a school social worker for the past 6 years, and I'm really passionate about what I do. I love it, and I've worked alongside school counselors for my whole career, so I have a little bit of insight from both ends. So just a little bit of a background on my experience. Right after graduating with my Master's of Social Work degree, I got into school social work position at an elementary school. I knew I wanted to work with secondary or adolescents and teens. So after getting my year experience there, I got accepted into a job at a charter school where they have middle school and high school students. And at the time, I was the only social worker, so I was working with both groups, and I'm still at that school, so you can definitely say that I definitely enjoy it. You may be watching this video because you are trying to decide for yourself if you want to become a school counselor or if you want to become a school social worker. Or maybe you're a parent and you want to get a better understanding of the staff members that you're working with your child or your student. Irregardless, I'm going to go through what a school counselor does, what a school social worker does, some similarities and some differences, so you can kind of decipher what the best route is for you or your student. Let's get into it. So we're going to start off with school counseling. A school counselor essentially focuses on the academics of students. This could be talking about grades, credits, graduation, and even like career planning after they graduate high school. And they do touch on the emotional well-being of students as well. I will say this also just varies on if they're in primary or elementary school and secondary. Primary elementary school, they will be doing a lot more like one-on-one and group work with students to focus on building their social and emotional learning skills. However, secondary, they are definitely more focused on their grades and academics. While they may be available for some of their emotional well-being things, their primary focus is credits, grades, scheduling, and that keeps them really busy. To be a school counselor, you will need your master's degree in school counseling, and you will also need your licensure with your state's like educational agency. That kind of depends on the state. When I lived in Las Vegas, ours was the Nevada Department of Education. But then when I came to Texas, I realized that they call it TEA, Texas Education Agency. So check with your state and what that looks like. So I'm not completely sure, but I do know there will be a licensure required to be able to name yourself as a school counselor. Now, some limitations with school counselors, because they are more so trained on the academics of a student, they could provide counseling. However, that will be limited to definitely like short-term counseling and solution-focused counseling, as they can't really dive deeper into like mental health issues or trauma. That will have to refer out if they do come across those types of issues. Now we're going to talk about school social worker, which is my role. So I may have a little bit more knowledge in comparison to school counselors. However, I have worked very closely with school counselors throughout my career and did a little bit of research on my own when I was deciding if I wanted to do the school social work route or school counseling route. So how I always like to describe school social work is helping to remove the barriers to a student's academic success. Now, this looks a little bit different depending on the student. And this is a big thing about social workers and what we're trained as well. We're really big on person and environment and systems theory. So what's going on at home? What's going on in the community? What's going on with their mental health? And I really try to pull all these things together, or all this information together, and figure out the best way to remove those barriers. It may be putting in resources. It may be bringing in the family members to decide, a plan to move forward on what the family's role is to improve their mental health or to improve their circumstances. Maybe it's because they're not eating breakfast in the morning, or, there's other mental health issues in play. So we really look at the whole picture and not just focusing on, the kid's not doing their work, it's because they're not trying. We're definitely not believers in that kind of mindset. To become a school social worker, you do need your master's of social work degree. I have heard of instances of school social workers having their bachelor's degree. However, there are limitations on what you're able to do legally and ethically as a social worker. So it really just depends on your state and district. Some limitations, obviously, we focus more on like the mental health, social emotional learning skills, and behaviors of students. So we don't really touch on the academics, grades, scheduling, credits type of conversations. We definitely refer to the school counselors for those. And obviously we can't dive too deep into like traumas and mental health issues. We can definitely address it. However, there is a certain limit where we would have to refer out, as we don't want them to be in school and talking about these topics, obviously, because you're not going to be able to go back to class and really focus after having those conversations. So I did a brief overview of what a school counselor does, and I did a brief overview of what a school social worker does. Now let's talk about the main differences between the two. A large difference is the scope of services. So if you're somebody who really wants to be in the trenches, on campus, visible, known by every student, and just being able to have, immense access to them, I would definitely say the social work routes, because, we are called on for, crisis interventions, behavior problems, mental health issues. If there's problems on campus that are escalating, or maybe there's a little bit of conflict between students, you're the person that's going to be called to help address those concerns. I work really closely with administration, as, if it's a major problem, obviously administration will be the ones to address it. However, if it's not escalating to that point, but we want to prevent it from getting to that point, they will definitely call on us to help them address it. Now, school counselors, their realm is definitely academic. So any questions regarding 504 plans, or any accommodations, or a student success plan, what credits they need to take, what electives they need to take, if they need to change a schedule, definitely school counselors route. So there is differentiation between the two. And for you personally, it's about deciding, like, do I really want to be heavily involved on the day-to-day on campus, or do I want to be more so involved on like the background work of what's going on, which is still very important, and school counselors are very busy. I try my best not to bother them at all, and I think they do the same because they know we're super busy. So either way, you're going to be busy and having a lot to do. I will say that school counselors do have to have those meetings with students to talk about those plans and to talk about their academics and credits and where they're at. And there will be topics that come up about, their mental health or emotional well-being, and you will have to be able to address those, those concerns in the moment. But they can definitely refer to the school social workers as well. I kind of touched on crisis intervention, but that's a huge thing too. If you're somebody who really thrives on problem solving and a little bit of chaos, who likes to put out fires, definitely school social work is going to be the route for you. School counselors may have to address those crisis intervention situations, especially in elementary school. I would definitely say that when I worked in elementary school, me and the school counselor, we did the same exact job and we worked very closely together. So that's why it's kind of hard, because yeah, their jobs are different, but it really depends sometimes on what age group you work with, and also just the school district. The school district may decide that they only want school counselors and they don't want school social workers, or they only want school social workers and just a couple counselors. So it really truly depends. And overall, collaboration is huge. If you have both school social workers and school counselors on campus, they are your people that you are going to collaborate with and communicate with. There may be situations where academics come up and I need to talk to the school counselor. Or if you're the only school social worker and you don't really have anybody to talk through cases, the school counselor is going to be your person, because they do have that type of background in counseling or psychology where they can help you out. Those are the differences. Now I want to talk about the similarities between the two. Overall, I think we both have the same sentiment of why we got into this field, because we want to help kids and we want to help people. The one definite similarity is that we're both there to support students. Now, the teachers are there to teach, and that's their main job. When the other issues come up, and they will, because kids are human beings and they go through a lot, they're going to lean on us as the school social workers and the school counselors to help support those students. So regardless of how we do it, our role is to support students and their well-being. We do this on a tier level. Multi-tier systems of support is something that we utilize as like a strategy to decide how best to ensure that we're touching all students, or we're providing support to all students. So there's, the tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1 levels of providing support to students. We both work together on teams. It's pretty often where when admin calls us about a situation, they're going to call us both to get both of our insights and see what will be addressed by the school social workers and what will be addressed by the school counselors to ensure that there's no overlap of doing more work that needs to be done. And then I will also, to piggyback on that, there is going to be some overlap on what we do. Now, I think it also just depends on when students are more comfortable with one or the other. Maybe that there's already been a relationship built by the school counselor, so they may address some of their mental health concerns because they just feel more comfortable talking to the school counselor, and vice versa. Maybe a student has more comfortability with the school social worker and they want to talk about the academics with the school social worker and look deeper into what they can do when it comes to their academics. So there may be some overlap, but essentially we do stay in our lane. I wanted to give some examples from my personal experience. So when I worked in elementary school, like I mentioned, we definitely did the same job. And so how we kind of split it up was, the school counselor, he did every other grade because I definitely didn't want to work with like the younger ones, and so he didn't really either. So to compromise, he did K, I did first, he did second, I did third, he did fourth, and I did fifth. So it really worked out that we're still having like a range of grades, or a range of ages. And then we also collaborated on like this bullying presentation and really tried to implement more bullying strategies with our kiddos. So we did it together where we created a presentation for staff, and then I did a girls group, he did a little boys group. So really collaborating on what were the needs of the school and how we can address those needs. And then when I went to this charter school where it's middle school and high school, there was one school counselor for all of them and then just one social worker, me, for all of them. So we definitely stayed busy and we didn't really collaborate at all. If anything, I collaborated more with the assistant principal because she was dealing with discipline and everything. So she would give me a lot of referrals and how she, we collaborated a lot as she wanted to know like how I was handling situations. And she was really great on like progressive discipline and what's the word? Restorative justice. She was really big on restorative justice, which as social workers, we love that because we don't want to automatically suspend or expel students. If we can have some type of conversation before things escalate. So it was a really great partnership anyway. I still had somebody, but obviously we got more school social workers and more school counselors as our school grew. But still, we don't talk too much, but we talk a little bit. Something that I also just like wanted to point out, it may be coming from more of like a biased perspective, I guess, because I did the social work route, but something to keep in mind is that when you get a school counseling degree, you are very limited to that career. So, your main job or career will be school counseling. That's not to say that you won't get a job elsewhere. Obviously, a master's degree is a master's degree. You can work in ed tech and, creating SEL programs or, whatever other options are out there. But with social work, it's a very broad degree and there's so many fields within social work that you can use with your social work background and degree. So definitely keep that in mind too. For spending all this time, energy, and money into a degree, you may want it to be a little bit more broad so that you can get a career that you are interested in, like to be in the schools, or you know that with that degree, you have options outside of just that one career path. So that's something to be mindful of, and really what was the deciding factor for myself. I really loved my bachelor's social work program, but I knew that I wanted to be in the schools. So I did a little bit of research on what master's program I was going to get into. And I took like a 6-month break after graduating with my BSW to decide. And I am so happy that I chose social work. And I am currently still a school social worker. However, I am a remote school social worker because I work with online students. So I get a little bit of best of both worlds, as I'm still working with students directly and I engage with them every day at work, but I still have the flexibility to like have those moments where I'm not burning out like I used to when I was working on campus. Irregardless, if it didn't work out, I know that I can go into some other career path with the social work degree. And really, it just depends on you, on like what you see yourself doing in the future and what are some important factors that come into play. Definitely ask yourself some questions about what you want for your future and your work life and your everyday to day tasks as, in your field. Let me know below if you have any questions or thoughts or comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.